receivers for the Colts, even though I love Anthony Richardson and I want to see him do well, when he does well, the receivers do not do well because he is a thief. He steals the touchdowns. He gets those rushing touchdowns and gives them to nobody else. I also think he hurts Jonathan Taylor. He steals Jonathan Taylor's potential touchdowns. When Joe Flacco's in there, they're not letting Joe Flacco running QB sneaks or anything like that. No, they're not giving him even the chance to run the ball. Anthony Richardson gets those chances. He steals the touchdowns from the receivers because I don't think they trust him throwing around the red zone. So they just want him to run it. And now they're seeing, do they have anything with him? I think before they were protecting him. They didn't want him to take a hit. Now they're like, all right, we got to see if we're all in. Are we all in on this guy? Can he do it? Well, now we're going to let him run the ball and see if he can. And that's what they did last week with his 10 rush attempts. And he got 2 in the end zone. So I think he's a thief. I think he's going to steal touchdowns from the receivers. There's not one receiver, Downs, Pittman, Alec Pierce. There's not one receiver that I want to put in there and I feel comfortable about. I don't feel comfortable with any of those receivers in the lineup unless Flacco gets to play quarterback once again.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. Josh Downs is my bust last week. He had a pretty good game, but that's still not something that I'm going to rely on and count. Maybe I entered my – oh, here it is. Okay, so DeAndre Swift is my bust of the week. I think he's ranked around a top 20 running back this week on ESPN. Going up against the Vikings, one of the toughest teams to go up against as a running back, is just not something that I prefer to do. So if you have another guy you can put in there, I think that's a good move. The Bears offense in general, I think trending the wrong direction. I thought there for a minute Caleb was going to start breaking out, but I think it's kind of gone back to taking a step back recent weeks. So preferably no Bears for me, especially DeAndre Swift.
Alrighty, and for me is going to be a pick that could blow up in my face, a guy that we just talked about, still has the fountain of youth. It's going to be Derrick Henry. The main reason is the Chargers are an elite ground defense, meaning that they don't give up production on the ground. They might give up some receiving production to running backs, but on the season, only James Conner has scored more than 9 fantasy points just from rushing production. And we know Derrick Henry doesn't get anything through the air. He does typically score a touchdown. Most likely, he'll probably score a touchdown again. But if he doesn't score a touchdown, he's going to be, I think, a very bad fantasy play. Even in PPR leagues, I think ESPN has him ranked 5th. I just don't see him getting into the top 10. Even if he scores a touchdown, he's not a top 10, probably not even top 15 running back, unless it's just a really down week, or I guess there are a lot of teams on bye, so maybe it's not that hard. But I just don't see it with Derrick Henry this week. He's going to have to score multiple touchdowns for you to be happy, because he's not going to be having a lot of yards on the ground, and that receiving production is just going to make it very difficult. So for me, Derrick Henry is my bust of the week.
I hope you're wrong, Marcus. I have a lot of Derrick Henry, but I do see the points. I agree, and I'll add that his carries have been trending down a little bit. I feel like they're trying to save him for the playoffs a little bit. But my bust for the week is C.J. Stroud. He's going up against the Tennessee Titans, who only allow 164 passing yards per game. That is the fewest among all teams in the NFL. This is also, I think they're going to win the game. I think they'll win the game somewhat easily. I think they'll at least control the game and be running a lot. And Jason pulled up the graphic earlier with the carries by running back, and Mixon was 7th or 8th on the list, but he missed 3 full games and then half of another game. And he was only 25, 26 carries off of first. So if you just give him that extra 3.5 games he missed, I think he would be easily number 1. So because that would only, if he's just getting 10 carries per game, that'd put him back up to number 1. So they're running the ball a ton with Joe Mixon. Mixon got all 3 of the touchdowns last week. I mean, I do think Stroud was unlucky not to have a touchdown. I mean, they had a defensive touchdown and 3 rushing touchdowns. They're not going to rush all their touchdowns in this season, but they're pretty committed to Mixon on the goal line. I mean, there was a couple of times where he wasn't even able to punch it in, and they just kept giving it to him. So I'm off Stroud this week.
All right, moving on to our crystal ball picks.